I'm Sonic Kim, America's face of dating, and today I'm going to give you an evil yet dark psychological tactic to make them chase you. And yes, this could be seen as manipulative. So if you can handle that, then let's move on. And last week I posted about this little trick on TikTok, and it got a lot of love, it got a lot of hate. It got a lot of questions and comments on it, and a lot of people were just asking about how to really use it, or like more examples of it. And so if you didn't watch that video, then I'm going to give you basically a little summary of what it is. And the best example that I can give you is Romeo and Juliet. And trust me, I know before you start rolling your eyes, I know Romeo and Juliet has been beaten to a pulp, an absolute pulp in the dating community, okay? I understand that. But I promise you, if you haven't watched that video, then you have not heard this technique yet. And it's actually it's going to be worth your while, okay? Because it's going to literally take your flirting game to the next level. And so what happened in Romeo and Juliet? The summary of Romeo and Juliet is that you had two different families. You had the family of Romeo, you had the family of Juliet. One was the Capulets, one was something like I don't know what the Juliet's family was, or maybe Juliet's was the Capulets. I didn't really care about the details, okay? I cared more about what was going on psychologically in that I could apply to my psychological abilities to influence. And so what happened in that script was that Juliet and Romeo, they met at a party, and what happened was that it was love at first sight for Romeo, apparently, in the script, and he fell in love with Juliet, and Juliet fell in love with Romeo, and then they found out that they were on these two separate families. And the reason that these families hated each other was because apparently there was like some big bloodshed between the families back in the day, and so they absolutely hated each other. So after that, Romeo and Juliet, they fall in love, and they're sneaking around, and eventually I think they tell the families that Juliet goes to her father, and she's like, Dad, or she goes to her brother or something like that, and she's like, I love Romeo, like, I want to marry him. And they're like, absolutely fucking not. No fucking way at all. And so when Romeo goes to his friends and his family, he's like, I love Juliet. I need her. I want to marry her. She is destined to be with me forever. They're like, no. Get that out of your head. It's not fucking happening. And so what this created was this technique that I'm going to share with you, and it is called the barrier. Okay? And so what happened when the families were like, no, you can't be with them? It produced a barrier between the two. And what does the barrier produce? It made them want each other 10 times more. When the family said, no way, you can't be with them. Don't even think about it. It made Juliet want Romeo 10 times more because of that. What would have happened? Think about this. What would have happened if the families were like, okay, yeah, go date him. Go have fun. And then they go and they have sex and do whatever they're going to do. And then probably like 3 months later, they get bored of each other and then eventually break up. They run the normal course of a normal relationship. And so it's like the fact that the family said no, they put this barrier between them that made each other want them 10 times more, right? And there's really two things that are going on psychologically right there. And the first is that human beings, they tend to chase that which pulls away from them. They tend to chase that which they cannot have. They tend to obsess over that which they cannot have. That is natural human psychology. I'm trying to design another business with my friend the other day, and we were looking at domains on GoDaddy for a website, and we found this one that I was like, it's like an 8 out of 10. Like, I actually really liked the name of it. It was like a really good off the tongue, right? It really sounded good to the ear. And so I go and I look it up online, and I found out that it was taken. So like, before I found that, part of me was like, I kind of like it, maybe we can find something better. But after we both saw that this domain that we wanted was taken, what happened to our brains? Nothing about the domain changed. Nothing about the name changed at all. But just the very fact that it was already taken by somebody else and we could not have it made me like it more. Then after I found out that it was taken, I was like, now I really want this domain, right? Nothing about the domain changed. It was just my brain. My brain was like, oh, I can't have it. Now I really want it. And that's the funny thing about human psychology, is that we tend to obsess over that which we cannot have. And so the second thing is that how to even use this in conversation. And, it got to the point in Romeo and Juliet where they were obsessed with each other so bad that I think they literally killed themselves. The rain, the romance, it's actually raining here today. It's pouring down rain. I don't know if you guys can hear that on the microphone, but it's literally pouring rain against the window. But they are obsessed over each other so much that they killed themselves for each other. And so it's just like this barrier thing is very dark, and it will work if you know actually how to actually use it. And another example is Grey's Anatomy. Think about why Grey's Anatomy was so romantic, was so just catching to people. Just people were just hooked on Grey's Anatomy for the longest time. They're like Derek and Grey, like lovebirds. They have to be together, and that's because in surgery and especially in the hospitals, it's against practice, I believe, to date each other. For a doctor to date another doctor, it's against practice, like it's against the rules. And so that's what made them want each other more. That's what made Grey want Derek. It's what made Derek want Grey, is because it was so hot. It's like, it's like the people, it's just like they can't have each other, right? It's against the rules. So that's what makes it so much hotter. And nothing changes about the person. It's just the fact that they put that barrier in front of you that says you can't have them, that makes you try to bust through it because you want it even more, just because of that little barrier, just because of that little psychological trick right there. And so, how to use this in conversation is that while you were talking to her or him, you want to think of a reason based on what they're doing, based on what they're saying, as to why you two can never be together, why you two would never work out. One of my best examples that I put on the video was that I love doing this one. It's so funny. And so I used to do this all the time back in the club promoting industry. I'd be sitting there and she'd be really into it. She'd be like kind of into it, right? Like getting really, like moving into it, like between first meeting and like really into it. She's like moving up the spectrum. And like I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, like you're amazing. You're spectacular. You're everything that I've wanted in my life. And she's sitting there just eating it up. She's like, yeah, it's just, I love it. Just keep going, And then I'll immediately change. I'll be like, but we just can't be together. And she'll be like, what? And literally, like, when I say that, you can see their head go like jolt back. Like, why? What? So it's like, they kind of wanted you, and then you say that, you're like, we can't be together. And they're like, why? Now they're extremely invested, because it's like, now they're really listening, because they're like, why can't we be together? No guy's ever said that to me. And that's the second thing that's super important about the barrier, is that when you tell them, we can't be together, what does that do to them? It separates you from every other person, because think about it, if you're a hot girl, you have all these guys trying to reason with you on why you should be with them, I'll buy you flowers, I'm chasing you, I'll do whatever you want. And so she's getting chased by all these guys, giving her reasonings on why she should be with them, but she has never had a guy come into her life that said, you're amazing, but it would never work out between us. Suddenly that catches her attention. Now she's super interested. And the reason that I would say that, I'd be like, all right, we can't be together. And she'd be like, why? And I'd be like, well, and this is so funny. You pick out some like ugly guy in the club or the bar where you're at, you point him out, and you're just like, you see that guy over there, he's been staring at you all night. Pick out like some super ugly dude. You're like, he's been staring at you all night long, and I just can't do that to him. I can't kiss him in front of you. I can't do that to him. So it's like, I got to go introduce you to him. Like he wants you clearly. I can't break his heart like that. You grab her hand, you start pulling her over to like introduce her. She's like, no, don't take me over to this guy, right? And so literally then she'll pounce on you to kiss you right there, because you're just like, no, like we can't do that. Another great example of the barrier, it doesn't have to be extreme like Romeo and Juliet, that's super dramatic, or extreme as Grey's Anatomy, but another example of Romeo and Juliet is, or not Romeo and Juliet, the barrier, another example of the barrier is, you're sitting there and she's telling you what she does for work, and you're just like, gosh, I can never date a blank. I can never date insert her job, right? Do a little smirk, give her the eye contact. If you're just like, God, I can never date someone like that, and you look away, like you look like a fucking asshole. So it's like, you had to know how to actually apply and use the barrier and use your sub-communications to mismatch your words. That's what makes women hooked on you, is that if you're able to mismatch your words with your body language, if you're just like, God, like I can never date a school teacher, and she's just like, oh, like your body's saying yes, but your words is saying no, so it makes her interested in what you have to say. And so another one, what she does, let's say she spills something at the table, she spills her drink, she drops something on the floor, she opens a pack of sugar and then accidentally gets it all over the table. You're just like, God, you're so clumsy. This one would never be, this one can never work out together because of that, And so those are some like really, really great examples of actually how to use the barrier. Another dude, he came in my DMs and he was just like, Do you think that, or I think he commented on the video, he said, I think I work with this girl, could I actually use the barrier to apply that? Yeah, you definitely could. You could literally just sit there with her at work and be like, God, like, you were just so fucking cute, but, you know, too bad we work together, because it's like, if we weren't working together, I would have already taken you out and gotten married to you, baby, because you were just amazing, but it's just like, we work together, I can't, you know, and she's gonna be like, well, now I want that more. Now I want that more because you said we can't have it, right? And so it's just like when you're sitting there, you're talking to her, and you're maybe when you're about to kiss her, you're just like, we just can't. Like, I can't do this. I can't. Another one more. I'll give you one more really good one. Okay, when they touch you or when they rub up against you, you know, it could just be like an accidental bump into you. Look at them, and you're just like, hey, like, I felt that. Like, I know what you're trying to do, but I promised myself I'm going to be good tonight. So you're not gonna make me be bad, okay? So, like, I know what you're trying to do to me, though. It's not going to work. And so what does that do to her? She's like, oh, well, now I have a challenge. Now I want to see what he's like when he's bad. And so it pushes them to break through that barrier to get to what you said they cannot have. It challenges them through that barrier. And so I'll actually be releasing a video next week about how to actually do this to get the kiss. And it's a very, very powerful technique. So make sure you stay tuned into that. I'm Son Kim, America's Face of Dating, and I'll see you next time.